Hello and welcome. This is Syme, your crypto CPA from the Lone Star State here at Occupy CPA. As many of you guys know, that we're all about bringing clarity to all aspects of blockchain, whether it's cryptocurrency taxes, whether it's the regulation, or whether it's the technology blockchain itself. And today's video segment is for everyone, your day-to-day moms and dads, average Texans that are worried about financial security of their portfolios and their assets, to crypto enthusiasts of all ages, and last but not least, to all the CPAs and tax practitioners that are serving these clients on the ground here in the great state of Texas. Today, I'm honored and I'm so excited to have an amazing guest with us today, and I've been after this guest for quite some time. Not only is he the author of the Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, he's also the current chair of the Tech and Innovation Caucus at the Texas House of Representatives. He has led Texas in passing key pieces of legislation pertaining to cybersecurity, data privacy, and also artificial intelligence. So please allow and please welcome me in virtually welcoming Texas State Representative Giovanni Capriglione. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on today. I'm really excited and looking forward to a conversation about my favorite topics, which is technology, finance. And we had the ability this last session to work on a lot of different things, but I'm pretty excited about some of the things that we did specifically when it comes to science and technology and helping with our workforce and helping our tech business here in Texas.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm just so excited for this segment. So Representative Giovanni, if you could tell us a little bit about your background. I saw that you have a bachelor's in physics and you've been a 7-term Texas legislator. So give us a little bit of fill in the gap for us. How did that play out?
Sure. Yeah. No. Again, thanks for having me here. So I started out as a nerd. I was one of the first kids in my town to get a computer. I started programming. I read a lot of science fiction books and unfortunately a lot of dystopian books. So anyway, that helped shape me. I ended up going to school. I did get a bachelor's of science in physics. Ended up working for a few engineering companies. So I worked right when the internet was all starting. I was involved in building some of those pieces of hardware, routers and switches. I then went to work for a semiconductor company, and so I became a semiconductor designer. I started to work on really sophisticated chips, physical layer chips. And then one day I decided that my wife and I, she was from Texas, so I should go to Texas, and we both won, and we've been here since 2003. But I also changed careers. I decided to go into private equity, and so that would give me an opportunity to still invest in technology companies, but maybe not have to so much be programming or doing the code and that kind of stuff. And then at some point after that, in 2012, I decided to run for office. I lost the first time, but I ran again. And if you go back and look at my campaigns, you'll see it was a very technical campaign, right? I still didn't want to show my face. I didn't want to say my name. I was still like a cubicle person, but did a lot of data analysis, worked on sorting through a lot of surveys and that kind of stuff, and was able to win. And I've been blessed to be able to represent House District 98, which includes, it's on the Fort Worth side and it's in Tarrant County, and it includes about half of the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, to give your viewers a sense of where it is. So South Lake, Keller, Colleyville, Grapevine, Westlake, and Euless. And so anyway, so then I'm elected, and I wanted to do what everybody else did, which is, the main things that people were talking about, which is property taxes, border security, all that good stuff, which we worked on and we have done a great job on. But I just felt that I really did like the tech part. That's what got me going anyway. And so I found in the Texas legislature to allow my passion in technology and to marry it with now some of the skills I learned as a policymaker. And because of that, we ended up working over the last few years, and myself and my office, we've passed some of the most substantive tech policies in Texas, and in parts we've been really excited about is that other states have looked at it and model their legislation after that as well. So anyway, it's a nerd's dream come true, right? The ability to go and say, okay, I have this dream, and I used to read all this stuff and do all this stuff, and now I can make a law about it. So it's been great.
No, thank you for sharing that, because we have a lot of viewers that are nerdy and that are tech related. Most of the folks that are in cryptocurrency, this is more technical,
Yep.
buying your first Bitcoin on Coinbase and going to DeFi. So yes, they are going to be relating to you. So I'm so happy that you're able to tell them that there is a world outside the computers too. And then
Yep.
so tell me, I mean, your resume it's very, very impressive. I touched just a little bit. I mean, you've helped create the Texas Cyber Command and so many different pieces of legislation. What about the Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve? How did that idea come to mind and shape, and what led you in advocating for that? Because you did this before the White House did theirs, and I remember following you on this very well. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it really gets to, so I'm in private equity and finance. 2008, 2009 is probably where we saw a lot of the financial collapse, at least in my lifetime, right? And so when you go and you dig in to what happened, you just see even though everyone thinks it's not, we have a very risky monetary system, right, in the US. And it is unfortunately built on faith. It's built on faith and sometimes on a virtual reality, right? And so what we saw in 2008, unfortunately, was that there were no checks and balances, and that the Federal Reserve at one point basically created money out of thin air, right? And really, since that time, we've just continued to see that there's a lot of risk, whether it's inflationary, economically, and so on, to just kind of rely entirely on the fiat system. And so what happened is, in maybe, I forget what year it was, maybe 2015, 2016, I went and I passed a law that created the Texas Bullion Depository, right? So we're the only state, actually we're the only non-national entity in the entire world that has its own precious metals depository, because I've always felt that you should have an ability to go and transact business, private transactions, however and whenever you want, right? And there's been a push over time for more and more of this stuff to basically be something that can be monitored or managed by the government, that kind of stuff. And I know I'm from the government, but trust me, you don't want to trust the government when it comes to a lot of this. And so the Bullion Depository was probably my first attempt to kind of really show that, hey, there's a way to go and transact business that doesn't require the dollar, right? That doesn't require fiat money, and but also that some of our liberties and a lot of our fundamental rights come from the back's ability to go and transact privately between individuals without government oversight, right? We all have the First Amendment right to peaceably assemble. So anyway, it goes on. I bought Bitcoin, my first purchase, a long time ago. I was pretty public about it because at that time, a lot of governments, including Texas, didn't think of it as valuable, right? And so I started to make the case that, well, if it's not valuable, then I shouldn't have to report it, right? Because we as elected officials have to report our stocks, our equity, everything, right? Your land, your real estate. I was like, okay, well, if you're going to say that this isn't valuable, then I'm just going to buy it and not tell you. Now, of course, I publicly posted it just from a legal perspective, but it turned out to be my most valuable mocking of anybody ever. So I was able to go and do that. And then, I worked with a lot of different groups, the Texas Blockchain Council and others who were really, really excited about the idea of, and I'll say it this way, but just legitimizing crypto, right? If you go and you talk to people, they still don't understand what it is. That's their fault, not anyone else's, right? They don't know where the value comes from. You can have the same conversation about money, but whatever. So to me, one of the most important ways that we can show the value, the most important way we can show legitimacy and the usage of it, is for a government entity to go and house it, to have it, to put it on its balance sheet. And so if you think about what got me going here, it was, this doesn't even have any value. Well, here's a bill now that literally puts it on the balance sheet for the state of Texas, the biggest state. If we were a country, we'd be the 7th largest country in the whole entire world. And we are going to have Bitcoins on our balance sheet. And I think that idea is just so compelling that I felt that I needed to work on it, and we did it.
And to some of our viewers who might not know anything about the strategic reserve, I would like to ask you to maybe explain a little bit who runs it, who operates it, and how does it work. At the same time, were there any hurdles in terms of passing this legislation? And this is something that this is very dear to me, the point, because in the CPA and practitioner community, we see a lot of older CPAs who are still not getting acclimated with this, and we're losing a lot of business to
Yep.
other CPAs in other states. And I wanna also teach on this. So if you can please tell us a little bit about the actual reserve itself.
Yeah, and first of all, to your point, I mean, I think not people have to figure out Bitcoin is now today used all the time in transactions, right? It is beyond valuable. I mean, the federal government has changed how it works. Some large banks have, a lot of the personal wealth managers. I mean, if you're not in tune in terms of how this is going, then you're going to lose business, right? Because this is now a key part. I haven't checked today, but I mean, it's a significant part of the total value of currency and other cash and trade in the world right now, in terms of what the valuation is. So the idea is to go and create a place and how to put it on the balance sheet. And one of the ways to do that, and just to give you a little idea, the original idea was, okay, we're just going to create an account. Okay, we're going to create an account. It's going to be run by the comptroller of Texas, who's kind of like the controller or whatever of Texas, who also manages to run the treasury for the state of Texas. So the state of Texas has a ton of money, and it also has a ton of investments. And the comptroller's job through the treasury runs the bullion depository, but also handles the cash management for the state, also helps with our rainy day fund, right? Which is our economic stabilization fund, which has over $20 billion into it, right? And I passed a law like 15 years ago. That fund, it had $9 billion in it. This is our rainy day fund. And it was being kept with treasuries. It was earning about 0.4% interest at the time, which is not where you want to keep $10 billion, right? Because of how inflation is destroyed. So I passed a bill, and now 4% of that, well, actually now a lot of that money has to be invested at least 4%. Still not that risky or whatever. Just that bill alone has generated over $1 billion for the state, okay? And so now the treasury is running all of this kind of stuff. And so they're the obvious place to go and put a Bitcoin reserve. The idea is the comptroller runs it. They just, now they're going to manage it in terms of the day-to-day operations of holding it, storing it, potentially trading it, all of that kind of stuff. That's going to be decided by, it's probably going to be a private company that does that, right? I think it was about just a week ago, maybe 10 days ago, the comptroller released its RFI. So it's the first stage in selecting somebody. It's a public bid, all that kind of stuff. Don't know who will get it. And then they will manage it. Now, when we first were doing this, the idea was, okay, well, no one's going to give me money to go buy Bitcoin. But what the goal of a lot of individuals was, we just want it on the balance sheet. So if you open it up, there's a big consortium of blockchain holders who are like, we will donate some, and then we will just give it. And then as long as you promise not to sell it for 5 years, you're not going to have Bitcoin. And we can tell everyone that Texas has Bitcoin, and we were part of that. And that was the original idea. Along the way, people got excited about it. And so along the way, they decided to put real money behind it. And so we have an appropriation that I think the first tranche is $12 million worth of Bitcoin will be purchased by the state of Texas. Once this RFI is done, then Texas will not just be a holder of, they will be an investor in Bitcoin. And that's awesome. Now, along the way, was there a pushback? Yes. You know that little movie where you see how a bill is made a law and it's like it goes up the steps, a little cartoon? It's nothing like that at all. There's like 500 steps. Everybody has a problem with everything that you're doing. And so it is challenging to pass any law. In this particular law, we had a lot of support. Senator Schwartner is one of the most powerful chairmen in the Senate. He was the Senate author of the bill. And of course, that was a sign that this had some support behind it. The lieutenant governor has an opportunity to create up to 20 priority bills. And so like, if you ever look at a bill, how they're numbered, they'll be like HB1, SB3 or whatever. And then it goes all the way up to like SB 5300 or whatever. Well, the first 20 are reserved by the House and the Speaker, and this was Senate Bill 20. So it also showed that there was support from leadership on all sides. And now the good news is also I'm the chairman of a committee. It's the DOGE committee, the Delivery of Government Efficiency Committee. So that bill went through my committee. The first time it didn't pass. Okay, there was a bipartisan pushback on the bill, and quite frankly, it just comes down to this. And maybe some of your viewers, it's the same thing. Is it's a lack of knowledge and education on what this is, right? And I mean, people who have held Bitcoin for a long time know it is extremely valuable. It is not speculative. It is one of the most valuable assets probably they have ever had in their lives, right? But for some people, they still didn't. And so anyway, we had a second vote. We got it passed out of the committee. And then as it was getting towards the House floor, it actually did start to become a little bit more partisan. And because from when I started doing it to when I didn't, the administration was doing their own Bitcoin and that kind of stuff. And so unfortunately it started to get a partisan tinge on it. I never had done that at all. But anyway, it was a little bit of work and battle, a lot of conversation about whether the state should really be buying it or not, as opposed to letting people donate. I actually had people I wanted to do the donation piece. I thought that made a lot of sense, but some people push back because they're like, well, if they're donating it, what are they going to get out of it? We should know. So it was all these nuances. Ultimately, I got a lot of help from, I'm a Republican, and obviously there's a Republican majority, but I had a lot of help from a Democrat who she's from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Representative Garcia, and she had just wanted to put some restrictions so that we didn't buy kind of like these meme coins, right? And so she set a minimum valuation, and I said, she was willing to help me. I let her amendment. I supported her amendment, and that helped get some Democrats on the bill as well. And so we did. We passed it. It wasn't the easiest bill I passed all session, but hopefully one of the more impactful ones.
No, this is absolutely amazing, because the reason why I say that is now that we're seeing a lot of our clients, obtaining cryptocurrency, you have basically led the way in normalizing this new asset class. So I want all my viewers to thank you, Representative Giovanni, next time they're owning, especially a Texan, because we've come a long way from calling this a scam now to actually owning it and actually having prosperity into this and really going the extra route. So I also want to ask you, so where do you see this the strategic reserve in the next 5 to 10 years, and tell me if our youth, especially who are tech savvy, will this create jobs and also increase innovation in Texas and also increase investment? So where do you see this going?
It's pretty interesting. So I went just a couple of days ago. It's public now, but I went a couple of days ago to Abilene, where Oracle and OpenAI are working together to create this massive data center. And this was, before this, it was a bunch of mesquite trees and dirt and rocks. Okay. And you go there now, and I mean, there's at least $100 billion worth of investment in this area, right? I mean, a new natural generator, all these roads, 8,000 jobs right now, helping build, construct, and massive buildings. Fiber optics, I think they said that the fiber optic cables go around the earth something like 30 times, just that they've already laid down. Okay. I mean, just massive investment. And then you go inside the data centers and all these GPUs or whatever. And anyway, so you see all this investment, all this technology, NVIDIA this and Oracle that. And so we go, and then Sam Altman is there, who's the head of OpenAI. And so they ask him some questions. And even with all of this, he says that a lot of the technology and all of these new things that happen in a lot of cases because of how creative we are at financing. Okay, so think about that, right? Like this $100 billion operation would not exist if there wasn't an interesting way on how to finance artificial intelligence, right? What has to happen is financial innovation and technical innovation have to work together. Okay. And it's that ability for us here in Texas and in the US that has really driven a lot of our growth over the last decades. Okay. We're good at technology. We're also good in how to do this. making sure there's a proper guardrails in both. And when people talk about jobs, they may just think of it as oh, is a Bitcoin miner, how many jobs does it have? That's not the point. The point is the flexibility of payments, the ability to go and innovate in order to find applications and products and services for this new way of transferring money. The flexibility, that's what creates the jobs, okay? And that's what creates the innovation. And I mean, just think about all the effort that's going. And I always think about this as maybe not the perfect analogy, but everyone when I was younger would always complain, why are we spending all this money to put satellites in space and go to the moon? And it's like, because we're creating a whole bunch of new things and new ways of thinking to get us to do that. It'll be true when we go to Mars. Why are we going to Mars? Well, actually, it turns out the journey is what's going to make us the most amount of benefit later on. And the same thing with Bitcoin. And by making Texas a leader now in that, makes us a leader in cryptocurrency, okay, which probably brings us a leader in a whole bunch of related technologies as well. And so if we in Texas continue to innovate and allow companies the ability to justify and legitimize what they're doing, we're going to continue to be one of the fastest growing states in the world.
Wow. Wow. And how have we been able to attract these massive amounts of investment? And I mean, from other states, how did that happen?
You ask a lot of businesses, and as you know, businesses move to Texas all the time, and they mostly move from 3 or 4 key states, but they're all coming to Texas. And there's a variety of reasons that they say, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that we have the best workforce in the world. Okay, and this is different from 20 years ago. Okay, where maybe it wasn't exactly true that we were, maybe we weren't, but we made a lot of good investments ourselves. We've invested in our universities, for instance, right? So we have now several tier 1 universities. We gave the governor the ability to go and basically have this investment programs to go in and pick top professors or researchers and bring them here to Texas. And that matters, right? Because that helps with the workforce. We went and we created these special financing tools. So we would say to companies, if you move here, we know the math may not add up correctly, but if you hire this many people and you do this sort of stuff, then we will make it a little bit cheaper for you. Maybe it's a property tax payment, maybe it's something else. So I would say it's well, first of all, again, it's the people here in Texas. It's having a common sense regulatory regime, which lets people go and innovate without fear of being taxed to death or being forced to fill out a whole bunch of documents and compliance stuff. And when you talk to these businesses that have moved from other states and moved here, they're just being stifled. And if you stifle, again, the tie is strong. If you stifle them financially, they don't have the money to innovate. They're not going to have 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 of their employees do some research on a project if they have to pay twice as much in taxes, right? They're just not going to be able to do it. And so they have that ability to grow here in the state of Texas. And so that's what's helped generate a lot of that here. And we've seen the benefits of it. I mean, it's been incredible. The data centers that are opening up here, the AI companies that have been here. I lived in California for a while. And when I first went there, the first building I saw was Oracle's building near San Mateo, and Hewlett Packard was everywhere. Well, they started there, but they're all headquartered here now, right? They've moved most of their employees here now. And so the benefits are real, and we've been able to go and attract that talent. Of course, the challenge is keeping it up.
And this is all happening during your tenure. So you've seen that tide shift because in Texas, I mean, I've been here for 30 years and we've always led from behind. We've always been the last, where everyone, after everyone establishes something, then we're coming again because of our whatever principles you want to say. But so is this a coalition that is doing this? Is this the leadership? Tell me a little bit more on this.
Yeah. And again, I am a politician, so at some point we will take credit. But right now, the reality is that it's the people of Texas are different. Even the people that have moved here from other states are different than the people that they left behind. Okay, it's a cultural thing. It's a cowboy movie, whatever it is. And when you go anywhere in the world, you get a different look on your face when you tell them you're from Texas than if you told them you were from Ohio, right? That's just the reality.
Mhm.
And so there's this kind of expectation of more independence and more freedom and more ability to have those resources. But yeah, it is a coalition. I mean, I mean, on the government side, I mean, Governor Abbott has done an incredible job in attracting these businesses to using the tools that we in the legislature have given him to be able to go and do this has happened. But businesses will only come here if their employees want to come here. And for a long time, I would say, decades ago, they'd look at Texas as, why would I want to go there?
Yeah.
But there's been a renaissance here. There's museums, there's opera houses, there's really good school systems, there's football, there's all the stuff that everyone wants in the quality of life. And now there's also a lot of business and a lot of finance and a lot of tech.
So years of hard work basically at the legislative level, so coming back to the Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, what is your message for skeptics who worry about the crypto volatility and the usage of the energy usage or public funds being used in this way, and what practical steps? And I've read the bill myself some time ago. What kind of transparency and accountability is embedded into this? If we can hear this from you, that'd be great.
Sure. So first of all, in terms of the volatility, okay, well, if you think that crypto is volatile, then don't invest in the stock market. To me, it's more volatile is investing in cash, okay? Because you can be guaranteed that's going to go down in value every single year, and it always has, right? It has value like anything else, which does go up and down. That is true, but so does everything else. And I know that as we go, and at least in Texas, we allow the government to go and make these investments. We still have prudent investor guidelines, right? We still say that, don't buy naked shorts on assets, right? I mean, our goal with at least this crypto is to buy and hold. Okay, we have the ability to put in the bill, the ability to maybe do some collars and some futures and that kind of stuff. But I expect, that for the most of this will be for buy and hold. Okay, and just think about what if you had done that with Bitcoin 10 years ago and you did buy and hold, right? Would you consider it volatile, or would you consider it a really good investment? And I think the same thing is going to happen. I would not have put my name on it if I thought that this was going to go up, because this is all of our tax dollars that are going to be useful for that. So I obviously push back against people that think this is not a scam. I mean, because some of the we all have, not just the state, everybody has invested in things that have gone to zero. Okay. Mm-hmm. And just given the obvious utility of Bitcoin, it's not going to go to zero. And so I think we're pretty good when it comes to that. What was your last question? I forget.
Regarding the actual transparency.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we definitely wanted to make sure that we could build that into the bill, right? And I've kind of cut my teeth on transparency. I've put in extra on all of our stuff. I wanted to make sure that we have transparency, because I do think, regardless of whether it's crypto or not, or whether it's government contracts or anything else, the taxpayers are paying for all of this. Okay, so they have the right to know where their money is, how it's being used, who's got access to it. And so whether it's the RFI process, who's going to be the person that manages it, or the contractor, we want to make sure that the audit and all that kind of stuff, and knowing that the money is there, is job number one. So 2 years ago, when the Bitcoin world and the crypto world had a really big story about the FTX issue and everything that happened there, which was legitimate and unfortunate for all of us, but I passed a law. It was the first law that any state passed in order to require some regulation of those Bitcoin holding companies, required an audit. Okay. And so in this bill, we are making sure that it is audited, that there's a group of legislators that has an opportunity to review what's going on there. The public will have access to what the value of it is at all time. I mean, you can't see it, but then again, you can't see the dollar, but to be able to know that someone has gone and validated and verified that it is in fact there. I mean, I worked on the bill to change the true and accurate reporting standards for crypto CPAs in their filings. And so I want to make sure that that the transparency and accountability is 100% there for there, because I would like more of our investment to go into crypto afterwards. And so I definitely want to make sure that people feel comfortable about it.
Okay. And as I've also read this bill in the past, it looked like it's going to open doors for Texas to accept tax payments in crypto. Right. And this is and that rebalancing of, because if we have a reserve, that we can take different types of cryptocurrencies as payments, and we can then convert it against Bitcoin or against our major. So this looks like something that is going to open the doors
Yeah,
to accepting alternative types of payments for taxes.
that's right. And so this is my not so diabolical plan, but this has been something that I've been working on for a long time. Because when I worked on the bullion depository, the issue is, now gold has a special unique place in the Constitution, right? And other precious metals do, which basically says that no state can have its own currency, comma, but it can be used to pay for debts, okay, and we do that. So anyways, a little bit of a fine line. But now we passed a bill this last session to also allow gold debit cards, effectively, where you will be able to go and make and buy purchases off of the gold depository, and you would be able to make some transactions using the gold. Now, obviously, you're going to convert it into dollars, because not every retailer is going to have their gold, but whatever. It's the first step in doing that. But in the process of doing that, a lot of people say, you know how you've hit it big and totally legitimize something is when you let the government accept it as tender, right? Like the second that the government's like, yes, you can pay me your property taxes with a block of gold or with this crypto, then it's game over, right? I mean, it's now just as effective. And so what we have in this bill is the ability to, if the and just so you know, we have a current, the comptroller at the time is now, when I was working on this bill, he became the chancellor at Texas A&M. So we currently have an interim comptroller, Kelly Hancock, and Kelly Hancock is running for that seat. So there's kind of like a little pause maybe on doing that kind of stuff, but the comptroller would be able to, in the future, would be able to go and accept this as payments. And once that happens, our job is going really well.
Wow. And what do you think? Just speculating what that time frame might look like, because this is very exciting for us to be able to pay in crypto state taxes. That would be amazing. I think we might have lost Giovanni. We're gonna just hang tight here for a second or two until he can rejoin. Give me 1 second. Just hang on tight, guys. We're just waiting for Representative Giovanni to come back in. It's we all have tech issues from time to time. I get them too. So we're just gonna wait. And yes, so this is so exciting. If you've heard Representative Giovanni talk about Texas accepting crypto as a tenure for tax payments, I mean, this would be amazing. You can, from your hot wallet, cold wallet, or I'm sure they're going to be limited to the amount of or different types of crypto that we can accept. It won't be some of the meme coins, but I'm sure it would be some of the major coins, whether it's Ethereum, Solana. I'm sure it's maybe XRP, but we don't know. But so we'll just hang tight when we'll let him join again. And so my this would. And then I was going to be asking him two different questions regarding law enforcement. And again, there's huge law enforcement issues when it comes to cryptocurrencies. Especially, we're seeing, as I'm also seeing, so many of my clients that are victims of pig butchering scams and different types of Ponzi schemes. And that was going to be my second last question. The last question was going to be the question in terms of bridging the gap between compliance as it pertains to tax, doing the taxes and whatnot, and the actual legislative piece. So the partnership at the state level between the legislative body and the CPA practitioner body, and how if there is any plans of teaming up and educating. So education in law for law enforcement, so for them to actually go and make sure that we're not going to see a lot of. One second, here he's back on. No, no problem. Yes, we can't hear you. Uh, it's okay. It's okay. We can see if you can try to. Uh, we'll patiently wait. No worries. Yeah, we have two other very exciting questions for you, Representative Giovanni, and then I'll let you go. So we're gonna wait. Everyone, be patient. This happens to all of us. It happens to me all the time too. So let him come back, and we're gonna ask him the last two questions. And if you guys also have any questions, you can put them into the comment, or you can just email us, at info@ocupcpa.com or crypto@ocupcpa.com. Those two are the primary emails that at least I check. But you can certainly leave comments, in the description below. Please like and subscribe, and give us more, share more topics with us that we can also ask. We plan on bringing in more folks, but this was such an amazing opportunity that to have the author of the Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, and I'm going to ask Representative Giovanni as well, because right before the interview started, he was telling me some few developments regarding quantum computing that Texas has taken on, and that is absolutely very exciting. And I want to certainly hear about that. So just hang tight, guys. Grab a coffee, grab another cup of coffee. I know it's 1:37. Some of you guys are probably suffering from what is it, the food coma. So grab some caffeine and hang tight. And guys, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and children of all ages, please like and subscribe, so you have a front row seat to all our future podcasts. Hello, Representative. Yes, we can hear you now. Yes, we can hear
Sorry,
you.
I don't. I don't know why you can't see me, but I don't know the place the office I am of all times in the world decided that the internet wasn't going to
You're
work.
you're a tech guy, you're
Yeah.
the tech person. So this is okay. It
Okay.
happens to the best of us. So
Well, if it's
I'm gonna
okay, you
ask.
might not be able to see me, but oh
It's
wait.
okay. It's
Okay.
okay. As long as we can hear you,
Yeah.
we'll continue on. So
Okay.
now the one of the big. Oh, here we go. We can see you now.
Okay.
Awesome. Actually, we can see your suit more than your face. If you can just slide. There we go. Perfect. Awesome. So now also, as Texas CPAs, and I personally have seen so many of my clients, being victims of these horrible pig butchering scams and Ponzi schemes in crypto. So as we're getting more acclimated with crypto at the state level, is there any plan in educating our law enforcement? So then tomorrow, we can, because for me, blockchain is a network for the people by the people. So there's
Yeah.
always going to be this gray area that people will fall victims to. So is there any advancements in educating our law enforcement, because this is so new, and when once the crypto leaves your wallet, you can never recover it.
Yeah, what I would say is we need education, a bunch of different areas. I passed the bill to allow require cybersecurity training for all state employees. Okay. And then we added AI to that. But thinking about it, we should probably also include some amount of training for, and all state employees, by the way, means all government employees. And so the idea is maybe there should be some more on the risks of financial fraud. And we've seen that. Unfortunately, I have constituents of mine, right, who are, I mean, and I met some of them, they're brightest people, like PhDs, the whole entire thing. But some of these bad guys are pretty sophisticated, and they've gone to local law enforcement, and they're just, they're great at a lot of things, but they're just maybe not as in tune in terms of how these are going. Unfortunately, some of the amount of monies isn't enough to get other people involved as well. So absolutely, there needs to be a lot more education for law enforcement, but also for the average individual person. One of the things that we looked at, and we weren't able to get it done, but to look at, crypto ATMs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, some of them are being used not for the intended purpose, right? So maybe there's things that we can do there. I know our local district attorney has just recently been doing a campaign targeting, people over 65, saying, hey, you know, do not wire money, do not wire crypto to people at a crypto ATM that you don't know, right? So I'm seeing some of it, but to your point, we have to do a lot more.
Yeah, no, that is very good, and this is an ongoing thing, right? I mean, this it's evolving so fast, and so now let's talk a little bit about the CPA practitioner or the tax practitioner community, and obviously now they're also getting acclimated. Is there any kind of partnership at the legislative and compliance, because we're working with a very loose framework? Remember, this is the cryptocurrency is the newest asset class that we have, and even on the federal government side, we have fit this in property. So sure, properties framework is a half a century old framework, and so still we're working with such a loose framework and putting a brand new asset class into this new old framework. Sorry, so there's still so many gray areas that I come across all the time, and there are not that many concrete rules that tell you that this should be done this way, because again, going back to the network for the people by the people. So is there any kind of partnership, or do you see something popping up in the future where there will be some collaboration between the state, the legislative body, and also the Texas CPA body, and maybe in terms of education and compliance?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I do, and so do a lot of members of the legislature, have a really good relationship with the CPAs in Texas CPA. The Fort Worth CPAs in particular were very helpful to me, not just on the legislative side, but supporters of mine in my campaigns in the past. So I would just, first of all, thank all of the CPAs for their help. Um, I, that being said, we are not experts in everything, right? And so whenever there are issues, like you just mentioned, some gray areas or whatever, to the extent that we can figure out how to have a stronger bond or stronger relationship, to be able to say, hey, this is a problem and we want it fixed, that would be helpful to us as well, right? Like, I can't fix things. I mean, I worked really closely with CPAs on some training issues, continuing ed a little while ago. I helped
Mhm.
with some affiliate languages. I helped with, and I know we all do, with a whole bunch of other CPAs. With my FTX type cleanup bill, worked really closely with CPAs on making sure we get the language right and the audit and all that kind of stuff. But you all have really technical stuff that you do that has to be right. And ours are laws that maybe sometimes are a little bit vaguer. Okay. And
Mhm.
that's maybe where the holes go. So there's two ways that we can work closer together. One is let's figure out what things have to change and not change, where maybe let's just say, for example, where CPA may not be able to book something a certain way because it's not cash specifically, or it's not whatever the definition is wrong. Those are things that we should work on and we should try and change in statute. And my office and everybody else's office is always looking for things to help with. Okay, so that's one. Secondly, I know CPAs do a really good job is on the regulatory side. There's an agency that helps with the CPAs, and sometimes we might be able to change things without having to necessarily change the law but by talking to the agencies and the boards and working on some regulations and maybe regulatory fixes. This last session I worked on, it was a Doge bill, but we've created, and the governor just hired the first person for an office of regulatory management. And I know that one of the things that we can do is start looking at some of these rules and these laws that maybe are old, duplicative, prohibitive, right? And there might be there might be an opportunity to change this before we actually have to go and pass a law next session.
Okay, no, thank you so much. I know that there would be a perfect answer to that question, for sure. But I just wanted to ask because as we also, because CPAs are so they're wired in tying things down to the exact dollar. But with this new asset class, it does not happen, and on top of that, when when the state starts accepting crypto for taxes, we're gonna want to really tie things down properly, So if we have a good tight framework, we
Yeah.
can also encourage this to our clients, and this will just increase that ecosystem. And Giovanni, Representative Giovanni, last two questions. First one is, I know that right before our interview started, we were talking about, you would mention something on the quantum side. If you can
Mhm.
tell us a little on that. And the last question is, what is your message to our youth that are coming up in technology, that are behind the computers? Where should they be looking for in terms of their careers, jobs? Because
Yeah.
now, look, I mean, you're bringing in all this tech and innovation to Texas. Now we're becoming a hub. We're becoming a leader. So your message to them, so tomorrow they can take the right college courses, they can go into the right field, and so what's your answer for both of those?
Yeah, so on the quantum side, I was really thankful to be able to work on and pass a quantum bill that does a couple of things. One, it creates the quantum commission and allows the governor to go and appoint individuals from academia, from industry, et cetera, to be able to start planning what the quantum world looks like. And as far as I can tell, it's the first bill that's passed in any state focused on quantum. But secondly, it creates a fund, and of course, we named it Qubit, the Quantum University and Business Innovation and Technology Fund. And the goal is which we're working on it, but it'll have money, whether it's from private or from government sources, to go and start and lay the almost literal groundwork in getting either a quantum computer or getting quantum networking here in the state of Texas. And the kickoff kind of for it was this last Friday. I went to College Station and they had a cutoff attendance at 450. Okay, but they think well over 200 or 300 people were not able to attend. And it was quantum computer brainiacs from all over the United States who kind of came there to see, the latest in quantum, but also excited that Texas is working on this. And so, there's always going to be something new, and I think quantum computing is something that, like AI, is incredibly important, not just for our economy, but also for national security. In terms of what I would tell kids, I mean, listen, students, I mean, this is a weird time, okay, where we're finding out that for a long time, computers were there to try and kind of augment our abilities. And now we've discovered that, yeah, they can do that, but in some cases, they may actually be able to replace. Okay. And so anyone going and newly entering into the workforce or newly entering into school to think about what they want to do has got to think about what is and isn't going to happen, which is a hard thing to do. So I think today, if I would say something, it's less about a specific skill, but rather a way of being, I guess I would say, like, it's not important that you know how to program in Python, but it is important that you understand logic, right? It may not be important to take that specific that specific accounting class, but it might be important to know what the rules are and what people's expectations are about the ethics and the guidance, and how to set the proper processes for that. I mean, management might be less about, do I want to go and do this logistics stuff, than to think about, how do I go and maybe make sure the company is profitable and reduces all costs, right? So I think what people are going to have to do is focus less on this software tool and that software tool, and more about something more challenging, which is learning how to be really good at thinking, being very creative, and being able to stand separate as a human. I mean, it just this is just a whole new world, right? Because I'm sure everyone who's watching this is using AI today to do things they never dreamed a computer could do. And we have to tell people coming in to take it up a notch, a significant notch.
And not just completely rely, at least look at the logic, look at what's going on. And because you're just like you said, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are watching, they have their AI summary tool and they're summarizing this entire podcast, pretty much. And
Yeah.
but again, it's to go one step further, not just to stay there, to go one step further, right?
You know what? This is gonna make me sound like the old guy in the corner, but I'll tell you, I have gone. I mean, listen, I was one of the first people on bulletin board systems. I was maybe one of the first trolls ever, whatever, right? I mean, but there's a massive difference between using your iPhone a lot and knowing how the iPhone is built. Okay, there's a big difference between knowing how the iPhone is built than actually coming up with an alternative to the iPhone, right? Those are three totally different skill sets. And just because you know how to turn on the phone, or you know how to go and go on a website, that's not a skill. And pretty soon that's going to be not even a thing. That's just going to be done for you. Um, the reality is that there are certain precepts that humans and individuals are always going to want in business or in life. And I'm going to give you a story, and I'm going to throw somebody under the bus, but that's okay. So I'm having this conversation, and I just need to know an answer for this. I'm in investments, and there's a company they're not paying or whatever, so it hasn't happened. And so I keep trying to get from this person that I've never met, sending this email back and forth with her. And I'm just like, I just want to talk to you, right? Like, I'm pretty sure we can just talk. We can solve this in like 30 seconds. But there's things you don't want to put in the email, and there's things I'm not going to put in the email. And I don't want to spend the time drafting, or let's just talk. There's no phone number in her signature. There's no way to access her. Right? There's just wasn't going to happen. And I called her boss, and the problem was solved in 15 seconds. So the question is, do you want to be a boss, or do you want to be somebody who's going to replace by AI, or not even AI? It'll just be a tool. And people just have to get better at managing. They have to get better at what makes them different and unique, because you're never going to beat the computer at adding things up. You're just not.
Mhm. Very well said. Thank you so much, Representative Giovanni. Our doors are always welcome to you, and
Awesome.
I will be advocating for you
Thank you.
whenever I go to these Texas Expo events, and I'm going to be teaching actually CPAs, crypto tax and accounting. Hopefully, I'm actually in talks with the
Very cool.
Texas CPA Society. But thank you so much, and I would love to bring you on for any time. For another talk session, and to all the viewers and listeners out there. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have any other topics that you want us to cover, please drop them in the comments, like and subscribe. And again, we're all about making a difference, providing solutions, and bringing clarity to topics. And thank you so much, Representative Giovanni. And we'll talk to you soon. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And next time I'll make sure all the technical stuff works. Thanks a lot.
Okay, all right, take care.